Hello and welcome to a MUP short how to do a narrative Deadzone campaign. I'm Claudio. You might know me from the Warpath lore, Warpath universe podcast. And I'm joined by Matthias. Hi, Matthias.
Hello, everybody.
Who you might know from the Epic Warpath podcast here on MUP. Today we thought we would talk about how to make a Deadzone narrative campaign. Maybe what to think about, how to prepare, why should you do it maybe, and why you should definitely just try it out and don't be afraid. So we will just be getting a few inspirations here and there, maybe from other systems, thinking about our experiences we've done with playing campaigns in various settings, and then think about what is in the Deadzone rulebook that we could use and how to combine it to make it a bit more appealing for like a narrative, lore-driven aspect that will maybe be a bit more engaging than a normal one-off game.
And still keeping things simple enough for not being afraid to do it, or that it's starting to be work and not fun anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think one of the biggest problems campaigns have is that it's a bit daunting to start a campaign. Because you think, if you think about a campaign, usually you think, okay, it's about spanning 2 years. We have to meet up every 2 weeks, else it isn't worth it. And we know nobody has time to play that much. So there are
someone has to write a story, and then you are missing ideas and everything. So it's keeping things simple, keep things easy, but still get something out of it that is more than just an on-off game. And
yeah, absolutely. So I think we've pitched it. Now you know what we want to talk about, and hopefully we'll bring a few inspirations and ideas your way to just try it out. Because if you've listened to a few other MUP episodes lately, there were a few crossover episodes with Mantic Lore where Chris and Clem made a campaign, a firefight setting, and played in that setting, and we're talking about it. And today we were looking at doing something similar, a bit on the other end of things, I think. But we'll see if there is something for you to
we are
use.
Still gamers first, so
yeah, gamers first. So maybe we first look. We should have at the Deadzone campaign what we have in the book, what we can use, maybe, and then what we can add without making too much of a work out of it, as you said, and just see how to do it easily and
the narrative Deadzone campaign in 3 easy steps.
Step number 2 will surprise you. So
and 3 make you cry.
Oh God. So, if you look at the Deadzone rulebook, 3rd edition rulebook, on the page 78, there is a section about campaigns that spans, I think, about a few pages, 10 pages or something. Until the page 88, and then you have a roster sheet. So the idea behind the Deadzone campaign system is that it's really, really simple and easy to play, first and foremost, I think. Because you have a roster where you can then take your strike team out of that, so more points to draw from when list building for each game. After each game, you have a table where you can roll and see what happens for a bit more of a narrative, but also gameplay experience between games. And you gain points for winning, for losing, and I think that's
it's a rather straightforward, simple system where you progress with your team. You assemble your faction and a larger team. It's pretty much a standard campaign with an advancement or progression system for your characters. If you want to use it, resolving experience, resolving injures, and a random event table, which is the more interesting part with what happens or what's going to happen. Do you get a field hospital? Do you have additional ammo and stuff like that? So nothing special, nothing but some basic guides to make things more spicy.
Yeah. And I think that's the strength of it, because you have that progression with experience and injury. So maybe you have a named character, a leader, a model that was really good, that then earns maybe a name. So you're bonding quite a bit with the models you're using on the one hand. Then again, it's a real simple experience system where you don't have to track everything like in a role-playing system. And as you said, the role for what happens after a game or between games can then be some starting point to build up a narrative, because you can get strategic assets like a hospital or get ambushed and so on. So I think from the get-go, without any other things that add to it, it's a solid system.
Yeah.
But we're not here to only discuss that. We're thinking about how can we manage to do that and maybe spice it up a little bit more to make it more engaging, more interesting. And have you ever played a Deadzone campaign at some point, Matthias?
Yeah. Sorry. I have played one long ago, over a short time frame, which is kind of the strength of the system, because you don't need those weeks or months to resolve it. You can basically play one in a weekend or a single day, or over the days of a week if you have the time for that, or expand it. I don't think having too much downtime between games isn't good, because the games don't last very long. So you have half an hour of gameplay resolving everything. So make it 1.5 hours at most. If you only play once a month, that gets boring very soon, because you lose the story and the excitement for it. But doing like you're playing 3 times a week, or you want to make a campaign weekend and say meeting with some friends, play on a Sunday afternoon, 4 games, perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that that's on, especially if everything is set up, the game time to play itself isn't as long, and the bookkeeping is also for this campaign isn't really that much to do. So in maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're gone through the campaign stuff after a game. So you can really do such a campaign in maybe 2 weekends or even in a single day. Because one of the points, I've played a few campaigns, and most of them were rather short. And usually I was thinking, I want to do like 10 games and then a big finale. And that's never going to happen. So be realistic, start little, maybe 4 games, because the experience system, you gather really quickly new skills or stat increases. So you don't need to have 3 games until you really feel some progression, because after the first game, everything will change.
Yeah,
Someone will be injured.
Also the point of too many people playing, and if the same guy always wins, he progresses faster than everyone else, and then after 5 games, things start to get boring for the others, and everyone is like want to drop out or start afresh. So keep things small is a good idea, and 4 games, 4 campaign games. This is if you stretch it out, a month worth of gaming. If you do it once a week, or can be done in 2 weeks, or even in 1 week, and even in a single day. This is a good number, 4 to 6 games, depending on the people playing. Like 4 games is a good start. Can be done with 2 people even. This is also something that a lot of people neglect when they say, "Yeah, we are only 2 people playing. Why should we do a campaign?" It's still fun, even if you're just 2 people playing, and you don't need 10 people for playing a proper narrative campaign to have a story evolving. It's just 2 people, 4 games, 2 or 3 days of time, planning a little bit out, and it's a lot more fun than just sitting down and playing.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be a big campaign with 8 people spanning 12 games. If you play 3-4 games, even as only with only 2 players, it can be fun because you don't. What we want to try to tell here is that this campaign can be used to have a bit more fun when playing a normal game or 3 normal games of 4 of Deadzone, because the narrative can be a bit more in the foreground. Usually, when you play a game, you set up your team. You think about what do I want to take, maybe what could be the best list. And here it's an occasion where you can really think, okay, what do we want to play? What do we want to happen?
What story do we want to tell?
Yes. And it's easier with a campaign than with a one-off game.
I mean, you can easily be inspired by a lot of things. Like you have watched a movie or any sci-fi show recently and said, yeah, that's a nice scenario, that's a good story. Let's play that one. Let's play that movie in Deadzone. It's do this in 4 games. Think about the scenario that are there. Basically, you have some options. So the first step in starting would be taking a basic campaign tree. So setting up in advance, you need to think about how many games you want to play and the different scenarios. Like the simple campaign tree would be play 3 games. The one who wins most wins the campaign. That's 3 games, 3 scenarios, done. Spice it a little bit up and make it 6 different scenarios. And depending on who wins the first game, this sets up which scenario is played for the second game. Especially in the Deadzone book, we have a deck-defender system there. We have asymmetrical scenarios. You can expand.
The last 3 scenarios are already asymmetrical scenarios, so could be used perfectly for that. You can maybe start with a patrol as a first mission, and then look like the narrative is driving where you want to go, but then you have 2 options to take, where you have an attacker-defender thing, maybe another more balanced mission, and you can think about where do you want to go, what is being attacked, who is the attacker, who is the defender, what's the meaning behind all of this.
Yeah, so basically it's 4 games and 6 scenarios that you prepare in advance. It's a good number to start. And then you can shift things around. You can even roll a die to see which scenario is played next, but you prepare those ones, and either way, one of those, either in the middle or the last game, should be one of those asymmetrical scenarios.
Yeah, I think they are a perfect fit for this kind of campaigns or this kind of games. And I think there are 2 things, because you mentioned beforehand that usually in campaigns, the one who's losing more often is, doesn't have as much fun as the other one, and maybe wants to drop out, or you don't play again. And the campaign system has something built in, that the snowball effect, that the winner doesn't just get better every time, then wins after the first 2 games, wins every other game because he's just better or has more experience. You get more credits if you lose in Deadzone, in the campaign system. So the credits that you can use to buy new items you spend, or new troops, you get more if you lose, because the headquarter, whoever is behind you, just pumps in more funds to help you.
Because money solves all the problems. As everyone know.
We know.
This is an interesting point from Deadzone. It's like the winning player is getting a veteran points. He gets stats increase. Or his models or his team becoming more experienced, while the losing team just throws money at the problem.
I think so. There is an option built in to keep up with the one who wins. And then the second thing you can do is that if you have 2 missions or 2 scenarios prepared after the first game, you could say, okay, the loser chooses. Because the loser maybe retreats or tries to flank the others, to attack on another continent, depending how big you want like the area to be where you fight. The story to be. So if you have a really aggressive list, maybe you have then one option in this mission where you're standing a bit closer to each other, and so the one who lost can then make up for it with taking a mission that is better for him or her. So I think
and also an option to have things that the game choose randomly to be in this situation chosen by the losing player. Like if there's a draw, things go random, roll the die as usual. But if you set the campaign up and say the one who wins has the advantage of being the winner, and depending if there's then he's then the attacking player and the other one sets up a defense. So everything that is a random deployment, random site, things like that is then chosen by the defending player or by the losing player in this kind. So you can have the options to remove anything that is this random setup that you have in a pickup game is then determined by the scenario or campaign points in who wins and who loses the previous one.
And I think it's especially important for a 2-player campaign because you're there to have fun, to have a bit of a narrative, and to see your growth and experienced models having a narrative in your strike team. And if one of the two is only losing, it gets really stale. So making it more interesting with giving little things to the loser makes it go on, having the narrative be more interesting. So I think you have to decide how far you want to go. There is a structure in there already, but as Matthias said, you can also just go for more benefits to losing, because they can retreat and set up an ambush, whereas the attacker is just going forward and pressing the opportunity, pressing the attack. So having a bit of an idea where you want to go, what you want to play, who can decide which mission will be played is great. You can still use, the winner should have some advantage, because usually there is, in the rulebook, you get 3 command points, I think they are called, for winning and 1 for losing. So you could say at the end, who got more points is the winner anyway, but you keep it interesting till the end, hopefully.
Yeah, so the second point now, like where to start, is where you get the narrative from. Because I know for some people it's easy to write up a small story and to set a campaign up. For others, it's much more harder to do things, and as already said, get inspired by other content, get a movie or a TV show to set up your story you want to play or the planet you want to play, or also look in the rule book, like 1 page before the campaign starts, you have the galaxy map. Just choose a planet and say, now we are there, we are fighting for something. And a dead zone usually means something already gone terribly wrong. So you are there, either be the leftovers who didn't manage to flee, or some people who just think there's enough profit to make when going back, or you are the mysterious grave digger who coming back years after all this happened to see which treasures are left around. So could also set easily get inspired by everything around you, like even something that happened in your life could be something that you get into, like you had bad luck or a bad day at work, make this a setup for your campaign, and you need to defeat the evil boss on your weekend.
But don't just build your office building in a Deadzone terrain style and then go rampaging through it, or at least don't show anyone else. Because we all know.
Don't make videos of that one. Keep it at home.
Yes. And if something happens, we are not connected to anything. But it's really a good idea. There are many points where you maybe can have a few interesting ideas, like for a narrative. And even if you don't have like quite the imagination to really make a story out of it, try to build a table. Try to imagine how the table is set up. That can change because the whole meaning. You can maybe put a few trees in there because you start in a patrol mission with maybe fewer points. Only start maybe with a 100-point patrol, and it's in the outskirts maybe of a city, and it's a bit more open.
It doesn't need to be a city. Deadzone is a city game, but it can also be a jungle. It can be the beach. It can be anything you want. It's also an inspiration could be that you have seen terrain bees around that you always wanted to have, and no good reason to just use it or build it, and just make a campaign of it. You have it. You can make a complex laboratory that's evolving around you, where you start on the outside of the building. If the first game, get inside the building, research the treasures around it, get in the central command hub, and the fourth game is how you escape. And you have your narrative campaign. Write half a page of story with the names of your team around, which is always a good thing to give your team members names. Mm-hmm. Also when building. And named and painted models roll better dice. Everyone knows this. So
and die quicker, but it's they go down a blazing glory.
They will always be remembered.
Yes, and I think it's harder to do with reps troopers because they are so cheap and have a 6-up survive, but still they are all heroes who died for the cause. So it's part of the
Ensign No Name dies without ever being mentioned again. Ensign Jenkins will be held in glory forever.
That's true. So, and I think don't restrict yourself, especially if you say, okay, we're going for a narrative game. It's not a tournament setting. If you have a terrain piece you really, really like, doesn't fit as good in the grid system, don't worry. You can use it if you're, if you talk about it with your opponent. What is the height? Where does it end? Where does it, where it's open or not? There are line lasers too. You could use if you're not sure. You can just align it with the lines of the map.
Removable markers are a thing, so it's rather easy to use any terrain you want to have. It doesn't need to be exactly cube formed. It can be anything. Just mark with a red dot the edges where you want it to be, the heights with something that you can remove after the game, and it's easily done. Nothing that would be done for an event or a tournament or anything where it's competitive to any means, but for a campaign where it's all about the fun and to explore strange new worlds, it's easy. Get something you're excited about it, mark it a little bit so that it's easier for play and have fun with it.
Hey there, I'm Brian.
And I'm Rick.
From Deadzone, the podcast.
And you're listening to Mantic Universe Podcast.
For everything Mantic under the sun.
I think if I'm looking at the Terran Crate range from Mantic, for example, you have the normal Shenzig Hab, the grid, the city grid, but you could also use the Gothic manor trees and fences and so on, and say this is an old GCPS mansion from a CEO from an old family who would live in a Gothic style villa, and you just want to go in there and plunder it while the bodyguards try to repel your scavengers. So it can be a bit wacky. It can be a bit weird. It's your thing what you want to use, and you can also go for every mission is on a different continent maybe. So you have a bit more of an...
It's open-ended. You can have every mission. We stay with the Haunted Manor. You have 4 different scenarios. Each scenario is on a different level of the manor, or going up or going down. Or you have 4 different manors on different continents, with each having a different secret to unbox. It really can be as big or as small as you want it to be.
Yeah, and it's really, it changes how you set up. If you have something in mind, where you are playing, and then you set up the table, it changes how you want it to be more open, or where you want to place some pieces of terrain. So don't underestimate what your imagination is doing when setting up a table. And I think it also plays, even if you play the same mission on a completely different table, because you say, okay, this is a bit more open, this is more trees, this has more height to go onto, it changes everything. So keep that in mind. It's really easy to make a bit more of a flavorful game out of it. One option that I want to throw in there also is something that was in the first edition Deadzone Nexus Psi booklet, because there was a campaign system where you had 5 scenarios, or 9 completely, but you had a starting point, and then you can choose where to go. And every faction had a single mission that it could throw in there. So if you wanted a bit more complicated and not having the loser choose the mission, you could also say, okay, if you're just right now losing the campaign, having less points, then you at one point could choose which mission is played next, which favors maybe your play style, because you can choose one of the 16 in the book, for example. So it could be something like that you then really set up that ambush, and you can play it if you're going to lose the campaign. So there are many possibilities to give like more options to the players here.
Yeah, could also add an NPC faction into the game. It's like, if there really is the problem, or that one gets bored because he loses, or he feels a disadvantage because the other one has already won certain games, you can always add in a third faction, like staying with a two-player campaign. You add in a third faction that is played just to give you a chance of winning a game, an easy, like exploring in the map against the plague, that some leftover zombies that are still around. There's or another alien race, anything that you are there, just like a hunt and destroy simple mission in it, just for the losing player to have. Now he's not playing the main faction that already got all the advantages from winning the previous games, but he's now, you encountered a small plague zombie outbreak, and you want to gather out the items there. So your mission is just to go in, collect the items, get out, kill some zombies, just for an in-between game, like for an easy break from the main narrative. That's
a good point. You could even do it as okay, I need to restock and get something extra, or having it maybe a bit easier because your team is already experienced and has a bit more stat upgrades.
Your team is experienced and have now depleted all the ammunition, so they need to go collecting things like that. It's an option.
And I mean, you could even pitch your team against one of the themed lists, like mercenaries going to scavenge around there, and your team is
you are becoming too good, and now you have Blaine's attention.
Yeah, maybe. So it's a good point to add maybe a third faction in there, or a neutral one to spice things up, especially in a two-player setting. You could even go, if you really want to do it, like a game master, one who is always playing a bit of different factions, while maybe you're going to play in forces, trying to lock down the Deadzone, and the other one is playing different factions, maybe getting a few experience points so that it remains fair. It's also an option. You don't have to make the more more or less competitive 1-versus-1 version out of it. You can do it like a dungeon crawler.
Yeah, exactly. You can even have cooperative scenarios in there when there's a third team, or going back using the Nexus Psy solo play rules to have a cooperative scenario. I mean, solo play rules just means you're playing against AI-controlled NPCs. It doesn't mean that you have only one player on the other side. You can have both of the players from the campaign playing against the plague zombies while catching up the items and things like that. So you don't have necessarily to be a versus game, but cooperative is perfectly fine. And I don't know if the old card deck is still sold. I think it was second edition.
Secret mission style or incoming intel deck, I think it's called.
The intel deck, yeah.
I don't think it's sold anymore, unfortunately, but I'm not sure. I think you're looking it up right now. Yeah, that had a few funny extra points where you could earn victory points, extra missions when you draw it. That's also a good idea, because you can also change things up when looking at the summer campaigns. There were sometimes rules for bad weather, something like that. You can take that, maybe that you have a foggy map where you can't see as good. So you can even change the environment, make some extra rules depending on where you're fighting. So that can also help and change up, and maybe you roll for it. So it doesn't have to be completely balanced all the time, because if the narrative is the main focus.
Asymmetrical is perfectly fine, and victory conditions can be altered. If you are fighting against a superior enemy and the campaign target for you is to have a single model uninjured at the end of the campaign to win, that's perfectly fine scenario setting. For both players, so
I think
it doesn't need to be victory points or anything.
I think the biggest point I think we're trying to make is just try something out. Just go wild with it. Don't feel the need to make it like a legal tournament setting where everything seems to be balanced or something like that. Just try it out. See what you like, tweak it a little bit, and even better if you say, okay, we're on a planet. On this planet, maybe there is it's a second sphere planet, so you can't maybe make open warfare at the beginning. So start slow, start with fewer points. You could go to a big like warfare, a big planet that is where a war is raging, and maybe mortar shells are going down all the time. So it's really up to you to find the thing that is interesting and engaging and giving you ideas to alter the game, to play a few more games, maybe with the same faction again. Because for me, when I played a campaign, it was nice because I was playing. It was a time where I was playing every game and a different faction, and so for me it was really nice to double down. I played Nameless to double down on one faction and just play them for 3, 4, 5 games with a roster that is not as big as usually. So I really had to make the best out of it and learn the faction and learn how to play it. And I really, after the campaign, I was a much bigger fan of the Nameless than before, because I connected with them, had my own story why they were doing the things on the planet. And that can really, really help also to then paint more models afterwards, because you really like them, or you felt the need. Okay,
you
I'm
need
missing
to upgrade them. So
Yes.
you started with a basic GCBS trooper, and now he's a veteran. Of course, he deserves his new model upgrade with a better paint scheme and better weapons. Also, a nice gimmick is what we usually do is to exchange bits after the campaign, like the winner of the campaign gets from every other one a single weapon or head or anything they have left over from their faction, so he can decorate his units, his bases, or whatever he likes.
Yeah, that's a good idea to really commemorate the fighting and the struggle.
So I just looked up, the Intel deck isn't available anymore. Some shops still have it on leftovers, but Mantic isn't selling it.
The wording is still from second edition. It can be used. I've used it in third edition. There are a few things like attack and assault actions that have changed in the wording, but
basically to add up in some random flavor. You have events, you have missions, you have special things. So this is also something you could add with any given card theme, like add in a random standard card deck and add certain events to different cards. Like drawing the Ace of Spades means that your leader need to kill the opponent's leader during the campaign and things like that. So you don't need to official cards to set random events of it. You just need a random card deck so we can draw those cards without the opponent knowing what you have, and you can play that. Assign some events that fit your story, or some random drops like who gets a health kit, or random events like the grenades flowing in is you have a card deck open during the gameplay. Each time you activate a model, a card is drawn, and if it's hearts, grenades flow in a random direction.
Love is in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good point. You can just use a normal card deck and assign something. That's a good idea. But also there is, for this secret objective thing that you have with the incoming intel, there is on page, I have to look it up, I think it's page 48 in the Deadzone rulebook, there are rules for secret missions. So you could add that there, especially if you say, okay, the first game is covert operation, you add the secret missions to that. So because your opponent doesn't really know what you're doing. You could add as a card effect or as a random drop placing like items, you could add terminals that use the rules from the Tertiary Revolutionary Splat from Hector Sanchez. If you want to infiltrate like a facility and you want to have those terminals to hack them. So adding little things to every mission to differentiate it from the others, I think is a good point. And then if you take the card deck you mentioned, Matthias, where you just say, okay, bombs are flying around or medpacks are lying around because it's open warfare here. Maybe that's the last mission where everything escalated. The Deadzone is chaotic. People are fleeing and dying left and right. So then maybe a random zombie appears and attacks you. So
yeah, being again sorry.
Yeah. No.
Just being again what we said in the beginning. Keep things simple. So take a standard card deck. Think about some random events. Assign that to a card and spice up your games. That's just an easy way to do things. You don't need dedicated cards. You don't need anything complicated to make it. You can even get a story behind it or why it's happening. So this is an open war zone. Grenade is flowing. You're already starting your narrative here. It's the beginning of the story. It could be the first mission to have like random grenades are flowing and the survivors have to escape the planet, and you determine who's the survivor or the surviving team members in your first game. Like you start big and becoming smaller with each game. It's the opposite direction, and it's for another idea here. This is
and I think if you want to try it out and it's a bit too daunting, just if you have a game day with a buddy, just instead of playing 3 normal games in a row, maybe take a bit more time or a bit fewer points, make 3 campaign games and let it end there. Try it out, see what you liked, what you tweaked, see how the experience systems worked. And that's also really a really low entry point. And then you can see, oh, okay, I like this. I didn't like that one, the changing of the missions. And for the next time, we set it up for like 2 weekends, and then it's a bit bigger, more narrative, more tweaks maybe here and there, and you can just progress from there. And I think it's, for me personally, I love to min-max lists, but I also love to make fluffy lists and to know what and where I'm fighting. If I'm setting up a table, it's always, I have something in mind when setting it up. And you can just use this and maybe be a bit more, or have a bit more attention to detail to these things, and it really helps to change the game.
Could also be Deadzone is also a small game. You don't need a lot of models, so it could be also an option if you always wanted to make a dedicated team for a specific scenario or setting. Like, I want to set up a GCPS snowtroopers who are fighting on an ice planet. You can use that thing to launch a campaign, or to just have 5 models painted in a dedicated scheme just for that 3 games. It's an okayish approach, and you have leftovers always around and always more models than you will ever going to paint. So use this as a reason to start painting a small team dedicated for that one weekend. Play out the narrative, write a story, and have fun.
Maybe even try out a new faction, or sub-faction. Maybe you want to have a Pathfinder squad doing their thing, scouting, or you want a Trontech GCPS cooperation with many tech drones and a Strider, which you wouldn't use in a normal game, but you combine them because you want more of an armored strike team. So I think it's a good point for the hobbying aspect too, to say, okay, I want to use those models, or I want to combine these, or I want to buy or finally paint the ones who were sitting on the shelf for far too long, and it's a perfect reason to finally take them out and have a go.
Yeah. Any reason for more games is a very good reason.
Always. Okay, so I think, do you have anything else to add? Something you want to get off your chest?
Add here is to look out if you are in need for resources or things like that. Old books are always a good thing. Mantic had for Deadzone the 2nd edition, we had the Nexus C, who are campaign-like. There are also the older Kings of War books, who have campaign system there. They are fantasy, but the tree design and scenario approach is also perfectly fine to use it for Deadzone. It's like, if you can find them somewhere for cheap, look out in stores. They often have sales for old campaign systems or old scenario editions that are from a previous edition of any other game on sale.
Or maybe even a PDF.
Or maybe even a free PDF out there that's like, because it's outdated, it's from the last edition, it's whatever. They're always a good inspiration, and worth a look. So don't hesitate to just because, this is a fantasy game from 1st edition Kings of War, what use can it be? If it's like you see the book around, it's cheap or even for free, give it a look, get your inspiration there. Because often there are a lot of things like in there, some small maps, some campaign trees, or even scenarios that could be modified because they have hidden missions or ideas that you can use in that zone.
A really, really good point, because if you look at Vanguard, for example, Vanguard had a really solid campaign system, especially also for 2 players, such a campaign flow tree where there were like game 1, game 2, then it depends who wins and loses. Draw inspiration from that. It's not like you can't use it 1-to-1 and convert it, but you can still
replace the scenarios with your own ones. You can, from Vanguard, you actually can keep the points because it's a similar level of game, but the Ice and Iron campaign
Ice and Iron, yes.
Yeah. Because there's a 2-player campaign flow, a 3-player campaign flow, and a 4-player campaign chart in there, each with 7 or 8 games and how to proceed things. That is a good inspiration if you need help with planning. Just get that one or look into it for cheap. I don't know if it... Yeah. I don't think it's available as a PDF, but that's something. If you can get around it, if you have someone who has the game, or even if the rulebook is someone in a club, just have a look and get.
In the current Vanguard rulebook, Ice and Iron was implemented in there because there was like a 1.5 rulebook edition, and that one should be still available. And there was a My Mini Factory campaign where also that rulebook was part of the campaign. If I'm
so a digital version is out there, so it's.
Yes. So and another thing, of course, if you need any other help or like sources for inspiration, just ask here. So what is here on YouTube, Spotify, comment there, join our Discord, our MUP Discord, ask there, or maybe even on Facebook or other social media platforms. Just reach out to us or the broader community, because I think everyone likes the idea of campaigns, but they are played way too few. And so I hope that if only 1 or 2 think about playing a campaign and try it out, it's already a win, because it's just
give it a try. It's easier than most people think. It's just getting started. So the first step is always the hardest, and once you are in, things flow.
Okay, perfect. So I think with that, we can wrap it up. As we already said, just follow us on social media, join our communities, talk to us. It's one big thing that it's more fun to share our hobby. So do that. And if you're really liking what MUP is doing with the content and so on, and you don't like the quality of our recordings or like the quality of our recordings, maybe consider also joining our Patreon, where we pay for the programs that make the sound better, and hopefully it all gets better over time. And with that, I think that's it. Matthias, do you have some final word for us?
Yeah, have a nice day. Keep gaming.
And keep rolling 8s and exploding 8s, and just have fun and don't be too serious with that. Just try something out. It's always good.
You're always open to try something new. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, then thanks, and thanks for joining me today, Matthias.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And see you soon in other MUP podcasts. Bye-bye.
Bye.